What is it that makes it so difficult to achieve Buddhahood in this realm? Tibetan teacher Gampopa, in his work, The Jewel Ornament of Liberation, he says that it is so strange that human beings have not achieved Buddhahood. He came up with 4 reasons why we have not achieved enlightenment. One is that we are attached to worldly, sensuous experiences. The second is that we are attached to sensual pleasures. There's a difference between the two. And then the third is that we have complacency. We think that we have it all, and we lose a sense of urgency. And then the fourth obstacle is that we are drowned in ignorance about the means of realizing Buddhahood. The majority of people, they don't even realize that they have that potential in them to achieve Buddhahood. Maybe that's how we were before we encountered Buddhism. We had no idea that we had this potential. The first obstacle here is sensuous experiences, is that you take it for granted that your world will continue. We think that whatever we see will last forever. Our pleasures will last forever. And we get indulged in our pleasures, and we have lost that sense that, or sometimes we even fight to preserve permanence. And that's why we get stuck in it. We're not willing to move beyond our sensuous world, sensuous experiences. And that's why we are hindered to achieve Buddhahood. The second obstacle is that we take pleasure as the highest value. Right? We live to enjoy. We live to eat, for example. And we forget our long-term interest and goals to achieve Buddhahood. Because we are distracted by the amusement that we have in front of us, and we are distracted by sensual pleasures. That's why we forget about our spiritual long-term interest. The third is that we are satisfied with who we are. Even though the teaching is to be happy with what you have and to know who you are, it's just a means to the end. It's not the end. So we should understand that, yes, we are happy because we want to avoid afflictions, not to have greed, anger, and delusion stirring us up. It's like a tank of water where there's a lot of sediment, a lot of dirt in that tank. When we have contentment, we are settling the sediment down to the bottom and not stirring the pot, so that we have clear water to drink, to utilize. And it's not that we are happy with what we have, but there's still a lot of dirt in that tank. So when we are taught different principles, we should compare where you are in the spiritual progress and not to take the principles as ends in themselves. Does it make sense? Right? So every time we progress, we should have this evaluation of the principles and not just to say, this is it. This is what I've learned, that's it. I don't want to learn anymore, or this is final. No, every time you grow, you have different thinking. Your knowledge has grown, and therefore you should evaluate and take on the next principles, perhaps. Learn the next principle that is more applicable to your state of being. So at the beginning, we are taught contentment, and that is fine. But you will soon realize that as you grow, that contentment of what you have is no longer enough, because it will keep you within your shell if you don't have the willingness to grow. The third problem is that we become contented, that we don't want to grow. Right? We are happy with what we've been doing, and we meditate every day, but there's no sense of urgency or with regards to spiritual development. There was a man who wished to cultivate spiritual liberation. He saw the masters cultivating, very peaceful in life, and so he wanted to achieve the same thing too. So he attended lectures and activities at the temple, and the master encouraged him to put in more efforts to continue his progress, because he was being complacent. In fact, he was not really complacent, he was more distracted. He said, yes, I understand the value of cultivation, but as soon as I have resolved my 3 problems, I will dedicate my life to spiritual cultivation. And then the master asked him, what are the 3 things that are so important that consume your time now that you cannot commit your time to the practice? Well, he said, there are 3 things, and there are really urgent things I need to take care of. The first thing is that the funeral of my parent has not been complete. I still need to bury the casket. So it's still sitting in the living room. I need to do something about it. And then the second thing is that my young daughter is not yet married. I need to find a husband for her so that she can have a family. And the third thing is that my young son is still yet not married. So masters, as long as these three things are resolved, trust me, I will immediately spend more time at the temples, spend more time meditating and practicing. Well, long and behold, before all these three things are complete, he finds himself lying on his deathbed, regretting the time that he has lost. So we should not wait. We should not lose our focus. We should not lose our sense of urgency. We think we live forever, but we don't. We like to think that, but we don't. Anybody can be sick at any time. We don't know that a person can be very healthy one day and then be sick the next day. But of course, we shouldn't take it to the extreme, right? We need to make sure that we live accordingly, take care of the things that we need to take care of, but do not lose a focus of spiritual liberation. So just like when we meditate, we're looking before us, but we're not staring at it. We're not being attached to the things that are before us. But at the same time, we are mindful. We have this awareness of the physical body to maintain awareness. Does it make sense? So you kind of have to balance between what is it that you need to do. So cultivation is not just to drop everything. Cultivation is not to go to one extreme or the other, but to maintain this middle path. And this middle path requires wisdom. You need to do what you need to do, but don't lose your focus. Does it make sense? It's important to understand that these four obstacles, detrimental obstacles to our progress. So we should be aware of complacencies that we have, and we must keep on growing. That's the message